Hi, I'm Dino. Tonight on the show, are you in it or are you out of it? What is it? The black market for bourbon tonight on Whiskey Business. When the words black market are mentioned to me, I go into a literary or cinematic frame of mind. The mysteries and espionage novels that I've read, the film noir movies that I've seen. When I think about the black market and having access to the black market, I picture myself going into a room behind another room. We're seated behind a desk is a very large fat man in a white suit and a skinny black tie and a small hat, perhaps a fez. And in that room, I can get whatever I need or require. Letters of transit, fake passports, diamonds, recreational narcotics, perhaps a Jeffrey Epstein bobblehead for the misanthropic, deviant, sexual bastards that are out there. Who knows? Or maybe a bottle of whiskey or bourbon, which I can get on the internet, apparently. Yeah. Welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. I am your host, Dino Tripodis, and tonight, yeah, I know what the black market for bourbon is. Anybody that's a bourbon enthusiast or whiskey enthusiast knows that there's a black market out there. But much like Fight Club, what's the first rule of Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club. And what's the first rule about black market bourbon? You don't talk about black market bourbon. So what are we going to do tonight? Talk about black market bourbon with my guests. Chay Miller joins me tonight. Chay was with us one time with Jim Canepa, Superintendent of Ohio Liquor Control, and we just skirted the surface a little bit about black market whiskey and that whole genre. And we said that we would have you back and we could talk about it in full, in more in depth. And also you brought along Sam Hilty, who is also with us. Two gentlemen which I am left to assume, ladies and gentlemen, are familiar with the black market because they maybe participate in the black market of bourbon. We'll find out here in just a little bit. Our guest bottle tonight for the podcast is a LONGBRANCH. This is the whiskey love child of Eddie Russel and Matthew McConaughey. They brought Matthew all right. The whiskey love child, which is on the podcast tonight. We've had a sample of this before on a previous podcast. Not even a previous podcast. It's when Eddie was in town doing a tasting, and we got a little sample of this, but we never actually had it on the show. So we'll have a little bit of this, 86 proof, so nothing too harsh or anything like that. 75% corn, 13% rye, and the rest of it is your 12% of your malted barleys and whatnot. And I'm still not sure about this one, to be perfectly honest with you, as far as, because I love most everything that comes out of the Russels. I'm still on the bubble on this one, so I'm anxious to give it another try and maybe, come back and give it another taste. And I'm curious what you guys think about it as well. I know you both have had it probably, but we haven't had it on the show yet. Before we get into things, I toss it over to our audio producer, Greg Hansberry, for a little bit of Whiskey Business for all those who are just tuning in.
Welcome to Whiskey Business. If you are a first-time listener, thank you very much. We hope you enjoy this. You can check out our archives at Whiskey.
You're having a hard time talking tonight, too. I'm telling you, man, it's the heat.
I need to drink some more. WhiskeyBusinessPod.com or on your favorite podcasting app. Subscribe and follow us there. And if you're already a fan, we appreciate it if you could go to your favorite podcasting app and rate and review us, because that helps us out. Everybody, it helps people find us a lot easier, which is cool. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the dark web.
The dark web. Maybe after tonight,
yes,
yeah,
I think we're on the dark web
after or actually banned from it.
For the dark web, they wipe you out.
Yeah.
But that's it. Make sure you share Whiskey Business with all your friends and podcast and whiskey lovers.
And we are broadcasting tonight. We're safe distancing again, still in the age of COVID, the year 2020, the year that wasn't. And we're out here outside instead of inside, which is why we're bitching and complaining about the heat, man.
Hot.
It's another 90-degree day We were supposed to record this earlier in the week, but we got rained out, so I appreciate both Chay and Sam for adjusting their schedules and coming back to join us out here in the pond. This is in my backyard. This is the backyard bar. You've been to the inside bar. Inside bar. You saw the inside bar.
I saw the inside.
You've seen the inside on the podcast, but you saw the inside. So you don't have to go very far in this particular domicile in order to get a cocktail, is my point. So that's what we try to do. But the Black Market, are you guys fans or foes of the Black Market?
I personally am a fan. I think that it creates opportunities for people to find things that they normally couldn't. Obviously, in the state of Ohio here, we've got lotteries for specific bottles like Buffalo Trace bottles, which my personal favorites like George T. Stagg. But in Ohio, I have to win a lottery to get a chance to get a bottle of it.
And what's wrong with that?
The fact that I haven't won one. I haven't gotten a chance to get one. So, I mean, if it creates an opportunity for everybody to have an equal chance. But, I do go down to Kentucky a good bit, and I've gotten pretty lucky down there and been able to buy some from some stores.
Which you're allowed to do.
Which I'm allowed to do. I'm allowed to bring back a specific amount into the state of Ohio. But the part of it, though, is that it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of schmoozing and it takes a lot of buying other stuff to get a chance even to buy one at a semi-close to retail price. And honestly, that's just not realistic for most people. I just I've gotten lucky a couple times.
When you've gone down to Kentucky.
When I've gone down to Kentucky.
When you've gone to a liquor establishment that's just like any other liquor agency here in Ohio, you're saying you're just getting lucky when you come across a bottle.
Well, luck isn't,
it's not necessarily
it's
luck.
work.
Or are you going down to
It's
Kentucky
work.
specifically because you were on the dark web of Black Market Bourbon?
No.
You're going down to Kentucky to specifically pick up a bottle.
When I go down, I'm going down to get them for myself. Now, there's a lot of people that don't do that live down there that are getting them, taking them, and they're reselling them to make money off of them. But I'm not against it because most people don't have the opportunity, because they're limited allocation bottles, they don't have the opportunity to get these things, and they don't maybe have they just don't know how to go about getting them from these stores and getting a liquor store owner to pull them out for them. So the easiest way for them is to go onto these markets and just pay a little extra and get one sent straight to their door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like Sam said, get him to pull it out. That's a good term. Hard thing to do for a lot of places. So he says it's lucky, but you have to, in the few years that's gone on, down there, relationships. Used to be in Ohio a few years back until the bourbon craze took off. If you had relationships with certain liquor stores here, they might hold some stuff in the back. So that's kind of like the out-of-state stores are. If you go there and you spend a couple $100 and, you don't become too much of a dickhead, then they might say, hey, I got a special bottle here that you might be interested in buying. So that's what Sam says is luck. I don't know if it's luck, it's work. So a lot of people don't have the time to do that. They don't have the skill. I think it does take a little bit of a skill to do that.
It takes a little bit of risk, too.
fucking
Because, I
girlfriend.
mean, a lot of times I go in and I'll
really
buy a
work
couple
in?
$100 worth of bourbon
pay
before
off?
I even ask them, hey, do you have anything else that, isn't out there?
Mm-hmm.
And most times I'm buying stuff and they're just like, hey, thanks for coming, But
Right.
occasionally you find somebody that you're able to talk to and they like you enough and they're willing to make something happen for you. But it's a hard thing to do.
It was on this podcast, actually. We take some responsibility that my first podcast with Jim Canepa, we were discussing the fact that, the lists, the unofficial
Correct.
lists
Yeah.
that existed in liquor agencies in and around the state of Ohio, and that I had a problem with those lists because one, I wasn't on them, and two, it didn't seem fair. And Canepa started to crack down on those types of places where if they were holding back product that was everything that they got was supposed to be on the shelf and not in the back for your special customers. We caught a little bit of shit for that as a result from that podcast, saying that that we might not have been the fans, we were the foes. We were against that. I don't know how I feel about the Black Market. My brother-in-law, who used to be a confirmed Scotch drinker, I've mentioned him on the podcast before. I turned him on to bourbon, and he's online now. He trades. He does more trading. What's the difference between buying on the black market and trading on the black market? And is trading okay?
So So there's, I think you have
As
to
far
like
as the
classify.
legalities go.
You have to classify the stages, the players, I guess, or characters in the secondary market. You like to call it the black market.
I like to call it the black
Like,
market because it sounds way
real
more cinematic and dangerous.
The real term
The
is
secondary
black
market sounds like, you know, like
the
some-
secondary market.
The
So-
secondary market
right,
sounds
right.
like I'm
It
buying
does
a
sound way
house.
better. We'll go
Yeah.
black market. But so
Some
you have
used
you have
slacks.
what, you have what
Yeah.
you call like. I think Sam would agree with this. I'm probably like the closest to being a traditionalist. So I don't. If I ever sell a bottle, it's because I want to buy more whiskey. I sell bottles at cost generally. So there's you have that general people that they go out of town, they find bottles, they bring it back at cost, which we call muling. You know, you could anywhere from one bottle to, I think the most I've ever bought is back is like 48, 50 bottles of bourbon. So then you have the next people who we.
Jim didn't hear that, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, hey, he's actually heard it. I mean, it's no surprise. Like we said before, and then he gets a bad rap, but as long as for personal consumption, he doesn't care. Now the next level you start getting into are the people that will buy bourbon and then want to make $20 off it. So if they buy a bottle of bourbon, say they paid $80 for it, they know it's worth, let's say 110, let's say 30. Let's get pretty aggressive. They will buy those bottles and then come back to wherever they live. Let's not say Ohio. This is all over the entire
And that's
United
the
States.
only reason they're buying those bottles is so they can flip them. And I know that people in this world
Well,
hate the
no,
term.
that's the last part. No, that's the combination. No, that's the last one we're gonna get to. So you're right. That is a there are people that do just that. But those are the people that do make the $30. They're the same people that will bring back. They will mule bottles sometimes, but they will sell bottles also. Like, and a good profit is if I go out and I'm married and I just went to the liquor store and I spent $200 on my bourbon. If I buy another 10 bottles, I can make $210 in bourbon. And basically, my trip to wherever I went, you paid for my bottles during the entire trip. So you have those people that combine the at cost, also flipping, and then the last group I would call. There's two other groups actually. Sam will talk about the last one because he's more involved in it. But then you have the constant flippers, who their whole goal is to actually flip bottles. So those people stand in line at Heaven Hill for releases.
Right.
They're usually the top 10 people there, and they buy those bottles, and as soon as they walk off the lot, they sell them.
I mean, there's literally actually recently there was a release and there was a picture that a guy took of a bottle, and you could actually see in the bottle it was on the if you knew the distillery, you knew where it was, and you could tell this guy took it as soon as he walked out of the thing. But there's three guys peering in, looking into the thing. You could tell like he and his boys went down and got some bottles, and they were like taking the picture together to put up on it. But I know where he's going to get to at the end. But I think to your question that you initially asked, is there a difference between trading and selling? I think it depends. I think it's it's a little bit of a loaded question in the sense that trading typically is done at a secondary valuation. So, a George T. Stagg retails for $99 in the state of Ohio. Well, I'm not trading two Weller Antiques for a George T. Stagg because the secondary value just doesn't match up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A George T. Stagg could go for $400 or $500.
Easily.
So
But then to throw the wrench, not to stop you. But if you got to note it, two OWAs is bringing up OWA, Weller Antique. If you were in New York, that bottle is worth a lot more than it is in Ohio because they don't get it every day.
and we'll get into it, but there's obviously all kinds of different micro markets and things like that. But I think when you ask like which is more preferred, I personally don't have an opinion one way or another, because at everyone's getting to the same end goal, regardless. They're getting most people that are in this, that are doing this, are getting bottles and knowing that, hey, there's something I really want more, but it costs more. So I'm going to do what it takes because my wife will kill me if I just pull cash out of our 401k or out of our savings account to buy this bottle. So I'm going to go get a couple things that I know can add up to this other thing that I really want more. So that's kind of...
But I think in the real bourbon secondary market, the flippers, the true flippers that Sam and I were talking about, they're not really well thought of in the group. There's people that really
they hate that term. They hate being called flippers.
I don't think they care because they make a lot of money off of it. I mean, there's some people that will. I take that back because there's some people, if you have a lot of money, so you can do a release, and that bottle that Sam was talking about went for $750, and like the minute you walked out of the door on like a car, the price of it goes up, and that guy probably made $700 off that bottle.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's go back. Let's go back to the origins of said secondary market, if you prefer that term.
But I like the dark web. I like the dark web.
I like the dark web, but I think it's just more commonly
talking
referred
about-
to.
I know it is. But
I know.
I like the dark web. Is a lot more,
I'm being dramatic.
a lot cooler.
But initially, I would say that the boom for the secondary market was, I think, hit a peak in 2019. It just it exploded. It was growing up to that point, and got really big in 2019. I don't know where it's at in
It's
20.
crazier now.
I don't know where it's at in
it's
2020,
unreal
especially
now.
with things are the way they are. But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't it just kind of initially there was? I made a joke in the beginning about going into a back room and a large fat man in a white suit. But initially there were these very private groups that were exchanging and buying bourbon amongst each other, and if you couldn't get in that group, you were completely out of luck. Some guy starts his own group on Facebook, starts with about 5,000 followers, zooms up to 55,000 followers, and all of a sudden, everybody's like getting nervous because this guy is doing what he wants to do as far as getting the exchanging bourbons and buying bourbons and so forth and so on. And then Facebook, friend or foe? I would have to say foe, because Facebook started shutting down a lot of these trading sites as things were going on.
I'll let you go first.
It's interesting. I mean, like you said before, you had the boom. Like you said, 19 was the boom, but 2020 is
2020 is
the
even
charts right now.
off the charts.
Well, it's all because there's more we'll get into later about it.
You get into it now.
Yeah, you have people extra
but-
money. You have people extra money income. You have people who've been locked in their houses, have nothing else to do.
Well, I think, but to his initial question though is, it was that way, and then there was something that came up that basically you could join, anybody could join as long as you had a real Facebook profile, and that was basically the vetting for it. That created and it helped create, even for me, because that was when I started getting into things. That was a thing, and very quickly learned about it. And it actually, I will say, in one sense, it introduced me to a lot of things that I didn't know about, which unfortunately created a little bit of a trying to think of the right words for it, but basically, like, it made me start wanting things that I didn't have, and it created a little bit of like a penis envy almost, of like I want this other bottle that these guys have that I keep seeing, but it was, like you said, it was more local and more personal and closer, but then it became this national thing where it boomed, and now all of a sudden you see this huge craze. And I think it's with anything that is popular and that is a commodity, there's always a secondary market for it.
Right.
So it was bound to happen at some point. It wasn't always going to stay local, but it did boom. And I think last year, like you said, it really grew, not maybe in valuation or prices, but I think it grew in popularity at the most. That's when it became like a real thing that everybody knows about now, or that even people that I'm friends with that like bourbon, that don't know much about it, or even that just have a bottle or two, they know it exists and know that it's a thing.
Right. I think the interesting thing to me is, like, you keep saying that there's this, like, a building you got to go into, and then down a flight of stairs, and then a special door, maybe a passcode. That was probably 2-3 years ago. That's how it was. I mean, you really didn't talk about it.
I would prefer to
But
go
now-
back to that. I would like to go back to that.
Now it is like, I think,
Yeah,
I
I actually
was
do.
talking to somebody else today about it.
I would like a
And
secret
now
knock
it's
and a
completely,
password.
it's completely. They've put a sign above the house and says, "Here's where you get it. Go down the stairs, talk to Dino, and here's a passcode to get in." So it's definitely not. That's why I said the dark web. It's gotten too many people have gotten involved, I think, and that's what's led to, like you were talking about, a certain group. He knows the group we're talking about. It got big fast, and when it got big, you could say, was it Facebook that shut them down, or was it an angry member who decided to report them to Facebook? There's a lot of different conspiracies that you get into how that really
There's some
happened.
good conspiracies.
We're talking about an article here. That's what's great about this is
Let's talk about the conspiracies. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a conspiracy, I guess. The best guess would put without naming names, but a lot of people do not believe that was Facebook induced. A lot of people think that was actually a
self-inflicted
wound.
From whom?
From somebody involved.
An
Well,
admin of the
basically
group.
an admin of the group that had other business dealings involved in whiskey that it maybe could have created issues for if it continued to go on.
Interesting.
So there's always that rumor, like, a group will get shut down. What's great about this is like cutting off the head. Once if a group goes down, don't be
Right.
If Facebook is listening, don't be surprised. But within a couple hours, the group is running back up and doing the same thing.
Now,
as
the only thing, and I will say, the only thing with that is the head did get cut off, but unfortunately, sometimes having the head is the best thing possible, because it was so well maintained, and there were certain expectations and everything that went that were supposed to go, that rules that everyone knew to follow, and it was the standard as is. But once it went down, all it did was created all these smaller splinter groups,
Right.
Because it was like, oh, we got to keep them smaller. Well, but then within those, it created a bunch of other issues where those standards no longer applied, and since they no longer applied, all these other things popped up, and they were no longer moderated or regulated the way that it was before.
It becomes Wild Wild West.
It's exactly what it became.
And that's what we talked about before. It used to have where there was
the etiquette.
what you say and don't say, and now it doesn't. Like, everything is completely out in the open. You have people that talk to liquor, employees at the liquor stores, the big ones and small ones, and explain everything to them about the bourbon secondary market, or the dark web, we're going to call it, which makes no sense at all. It's used to be about I'd say 3 years ago. You really didn't talk about it. You sure as hell didn't go to a liquor store and start telling the clerk, like, oh my gosh, I got to get a bottle of this, because if I get this bottle, did you know it's worth that bottle if you buy it for $50? If you keep that yourself and go on this Facebook group, you could sell that and make $80.
That brings up a question that I've always thought of.
Yeah.
Like, part of me wants to just like quit my job and get a job at Giant Eagle and just sit there and watch the stock roll in, and pick the bottles off one at a time and just cash in on it.
But I think our
You wouldn't be working at Giant Eagle very long.
Yeah, you won't be. They
You-
used to be like that.
There's a guy I know that recently there was a manager that was doing that is no
they
longer
got-
there.
they
anymore.
got
That's the
caught
very
and they
thing
said
that
no.
our friend Jim Canepa cracked
he
down
cracked
on.
on that
He
hard.
cracked down on
Yeah.
that hard right out of the gate.
Because now, if you lived in Kentucky, now they're used, and that's the part of the thing with the bigger group. There used to be a ban on liquor stores selling within the group. And I remember one guy in particular out of San Diego, who is basically the most hated guy in bourbon anymore. He would always come in and try and sell stuff out of his liquor store, and he just posted on the counter, and he would always get banned, and he'd come with a new group or something like that. But
why is he the most hated guy in
Anymore,
bourbon?
it's because
What happened? What did he do? What was he doing?
This is a whole different thing, but he stole barrels basically from a different group, a smaller group that the barrel was supposed to go through the state of California, and when it did, he immediately jumped on the PO and stole it for his, when it was supposed to go to a different liquor store. So everyone's kind of blackballed.
And what was his
him
reason
because
for
of it.
doing that?
Because he
make
could
money
sell
off
it
of
and make
bourbon.
money off of it.
So he could do it. So he
And
could profit.
And he sold it, and it was also kind of a screw you to other people too, that he thought he was getting the shaft from, and so on and so forth. But
Which is one of my questions in this world, especially the bourbon world, because I know both of you are bourbon enthusiasts, myself as well. We have a love for the brown liquor. I mean, we get excited when we come across a new bottle. We get excited when we come across a rare bottle. All right, so romantically, I'd like to think that in this world that there is the old expression as honor among thieves, if you will. And it doesn't seem like there is enough of that.
No,
I actually think there was.
Yeah,
There was, but not anymore.
I think it's gone away a little bit.
It's gotten. I mean, I think you said before. There's a lot of great people who are doing the right thing. And the only thing I'd add to your statement about being a whiskey enthusiast is finding them, rare bourbon, sharing them. That's the one thing that a lot of these guys forget. It's like when you get bourbon, like I've been to Sam's house, and whatever's open is open.
It's
I've been
open.
to your house and things.
You know,
So
my
there's a
house
lot of
same
guys
way.
that
I like Chay more than most, so he gets more stuff than other people do. But still,
yeah, they forget that's the other part of it is to actually share these bottles. And so
Yes.
the honor among thieves is that I would tell you that there has been, I would say probably in the past year or so, a different breed of people coming in where it's all about them.
it's gone
And
downhill.
There's an expression they're called taters. They got more money than taste. They just want the taters want to
You
buy.
can call me a tater all you
tater.
want. I'm a tater.
You're not a tater. No, more money than taste. These are the people that buy the bourbon just for the prestige, just for the say, oh yes, that's this bottle and this bottle and this bottle, and they sit on the shelf and remain. They're like a collection. Never with any hope or dream of them opening, but they like to be able to display them and say that I've got this bottle.
I mean,
this
I
rare
I
bottle.
have
do
those
that.
bottles.
I
do that
Come
too.
on, man. No, you
I
strike me
open-
as the
no,
type of person that
I
would
o- I
open a
open
bottle.
them,
You
but
would open
I will
them.
say, like,
No.
I've got like
You're not gonna open it up for somebody who has no appreciation for whiskey.
But I guess it's more so is like I have like 12 bottles of BTAC. Okay, like I've got 6 bottles of 2017 GTS. I think it's the best thing there is.
Okay.
but I have one open. But like I know that there are other ones that I have. Like I have 2 Booker's 30ths. One's open. One's not getting open for probably 10 years. Like I know that it's going to, but I'm holding on to it. But what I will say is that there are some things that I get that I hold on to because I know that I don't like it as much. I got the opportunity to purchase it. But I do know that, you know what, I can probably trade that for another GTS 17 at some point because I know how much I like that.
Yeah.
So I think there's there's a balance in between it being like the collector and also.
And let me play the devil's advocate.
I probably have 110 bottles that I display. Probably.
You display, but you're.
But I probably have.
Are you? Are you
I don't
saying
get
you're?
that number.
I have
But I have
110
these bottles.
total.
So these bottles are some of these bottles like Sam just hit on is. You know, some of these bottles, you know, it's funny. Some of these bottles I've gotten from those relationships you talked about. You know, my brother-in-law may have gotten the bottle for me. So the bottles, you know, the bottles that I normally display have some type of like, really have some kind of sentimental value to me. But they will be opened eventually. But
that
they
I
also will be
understand.
something that I have right now that I may not, like Sam said, I may not be 100% in love with. But in 2 months from now, one of those bottles, another bottle I may fall in love with, and I may say, hey, I'm going to trade this for the bottle that I'm in love with.
The sentiment.
In
Go
terms
ahead,
of
Hansberry.
the collectability, though, just to kind of
Yeah.
play the devil's advocate, Dino, you collect like rare books. How different would it be? Or I collect records.
I
don't-
collect the rare books, but I open
You read
them, I read
every day,
them, and at some point, you know.
But most of those I've
but
tasted, though. The ones that
I actually agree with him too in the sense that like there is you do a lot of times get on these. There's some different groups that are just simply. You know, discussion about bourbon, and they're like a lot of times one of the most common things you see from people is like, oh, you know, people that collect are stupid. This is for drinking, or this is for you know, it's for drinking. It's not for you know,
it would make
it's not for collecting.
Yeah.
But
Art's
in
for
anything,
collecting.
there's a collecting aspect to it, and that's
All right.
that's part of
Baseball
the marketing
cards,
aspect
yeah.
of everything.
Yes,
If you come across an old a rare bottle of Hirsch, I get that. Okay. You
Yeah,
know.
but Dino, I have bottles that I literally paid $89 for that are worth $800 right now.
Okay, so do I. And I've opened them.
But and I agree. But I mean, my thing too is I got 2 kids going into college right now. I also, you know, that bottle that bottle will be open someday. But it is with the right person. You know, if something happened where I needed to sell them, I might
I'd
sell
do
them.
it.
I
I mean,
understand.
he can vouch for me. Like the only time I sell a bottle is he knows usually is when I need to buy another bottle.
And I
want
will
my wife to-
I will say on the lower end.
I was gonna
Sorry,
fix.
I will say on the lower end is I do have bottles like we did a COB barrel pick last year with Eddie Russell for
Right.
my group that Chay and I run, and I have 2. I have one that's open, it's almost gone, and I have another one that I might not ever open, simply because I got the chance to sit in a room with Eddie Russell and pick a barrel with him. And that is such a cool opportunity. That is a reminder to me that bottle is going to sit there. And maybe I'll open it in 2
Okay.
weeks. Maybe I'll open it in 20 years. Maybe I won't.
Maybe I wasn't clear enough when I was talking. I understand the sentimental value.
Yeah.
There's a bottle of Buffalo Trace which retails for $29 a bottle, but Hansberry signed it.
I autographed it.
He autographed
So
it.
that
and
right
gave it to me
there,
as a
the
gift.
value
I have about 100
plummeted.
you can-
He is. He autographed it and signed it for me. It was a gift, and you know, I put that bottle to the side, not because it's Buffalo Trace and even sometimes hard to get here in Columbus, Ohio. I keep it unopened because it's got some sentimental value to it. I hate to break the kid's heart,
You
but
wanna
at some
kiss?
point, if I'm out of Buffalo Trace, I'm going to open up that fucking bottle.
or if he hits it rich and you can sell it for triple the price.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey,
And,
I love
and
you, but
Hansberry,
can
I
you
will
sign another
save.
bottle?
I will save the empty bottle
All right, thank
and
you.
fill it with sand
Okay.
and put it up someplace and go, oh yes, I remember that
It's like
bottle
your
very
trip
I
to
well.
want to
Palm
add to
Beach.
what you're saying though is like what.
But
what Sam,
I understand.
I do get what you're saying,
but
too.
you-
The sentimental value part of it, I get.
but there's also bottles that are great bottles. Like Sam knows, he's been over. Like I have a 1976 Wild Turkey that was signed by Eddie Russell.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, if I've had enough drinks and the right people are over, people get to try that. It's open.
Well,
I tried to get her to bring it in.
But it
I-
also, you know, now that I'm down to about half of it, you know, you have to be really special, and I have to really like you to open it. So
Well,
yeah,
you
there's
haven't
definitely
had
bottles
any.
that I open when that bottle was opened the same time that you were going to talk. It's a good segue into where you're going to go there. But I was at one of those things, and I stayed late, and he actually signed the bottle, and he opened it,
That part
which
of
is
it
which
I
is
get.
which is good. But there are a lot of people. I think what you're going to say, there are people that have all these great things, and they never intend to open it.
Never intend to
I think
open
you'd
them,
agree to that.
and they're just for show. There's no sentimental value. It's
Right, it's a big dick contest.
It's a money-making-
Yes,
it's-
it's a big dick. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big
It's
dick
a big dick bottle
at worst,
contest.
it's a second job basically.
It's a big dick bottle contest.
Yeah, but
you don't strike me as a big dick bottle.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Participant.
I've actually
He's
seen
actually
it.
seen,
I've actually
so-
seen a picture of it. It's not.
Okay. Because
We'll tell that story later.
last time you were here, you were freaking out when I said you want some birthday bourbon. The Old Forester birthday bourbon. You were freaking out
Well,
that I opened up the bottle and just
But
started
freaking out
pouring
is
it.
like, so there's people that you definitely.
I
there's
opened it
people
because
that
you have an
do. Like,
appreciation
if you,
for
yeah,
it.
if you came to the basement, and people have that are listening, some people haven't. Some people will never come there because, again, that's my my basement and my rules, whatever. But if you come over, there's things that we're going to open, and if somebody really cares about it, you'll do it. But I think Sam, the ad about the sentimental value and things like that is, I can tell you, I think everything that I have, that I'm holding on to, I have had before. If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
I've had them
absolutely.
before.
That makes sense.
So this isn't something that I'm just getting it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've tasted all the things that I'm looking at, and I like to I like to walk in, show my kids. My kids think I'm crazy. You think I'm crazy, but there's many nights that if you're over and if the mood's right, it's the right people. Which is go back to before. It's people that have to really care.
Now,
You open and drink them.
Now I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum a little bit, and that's kind of why I joked about being a tater earlier. Is that like
You're not a tater.
I
You
do
don't tell
have
me you're a
no.
tater.
Listen. I'll
tater a little
I'll explain why. Is there's a lot of stuff that I have bought, and I have bought it solely as an investment.
Yeah.
Because I know, because I've got a pretty good gauge on the market of what people want and where things are going to go and what things are going away, what's changing, and how there are things that I have that I know are going to double and triple in value over the next 6 months even, that I'm holding on to because I know I don't really care about this, but I can tell you right now that in 6 months it's going to be another bottle of 2017 George T. Stagg, and I'm going to love that bottle.
So I guess the point is that what everybody cries foul about in respects to the black market of bourbon, the secondary market, where's the crime? Nobody seems to think that aside from it, not being legal, there's the crime on some,
Right. I mean, anytime.
Victimless
but
crime.
I'm saying
End of
where-
conversation.
but where is the actual crime? And it's like anything else in life. I always say that rationalizations are like bowel movements. You need at least one good one every day in order to feel right about yourself. And so when it comes to this world, rationalizations seem to lead the way.
Yeah,
if you will.
Well,
You
I-
said
I don't
an
think-
investment.
I
I get that. An investment. If I was collected stamps,
See,
and
my
found a rare
the
stamp,
investment. The people like, I guess you asked. Do you like the secondary market?
Well, it's
Or do you not? He answered pretty quickly. Sam and I we talk about this probably way too much than we should, but
He calls me
I
15
have
times a
some
day.
serious problems with it.
what are your problems with the secondary
I mean,
market?
it's like you said before. There are people.
Even though you use it to your benefit.
No, I do, but I think there's rules. There's always. It's like you said before. The secondary market 3 years ago is drastically different. It was like the honor among thieves. You know what I mean?
That's what I said.
Now, now there's no honor in some of these things. People will slit your throat, lie to you to your face, badmouth you, friend you, defriend you, as long as it benefits them.
So does that make you want to leave it? Just like, I'm done. I'm out of this.
No, I mean,
don't want to have anything to do with
No,
the secondary market anymore.
because guys like me, I've been in this for quite some time, and I am an enthusiast. I mean, I like that word. I mean I love
It's a
bourbon.
nice
I read
word,
about
isn't it?
bourbon
He
all the
loves
It's a
time.
that
nice
word.
word. It's a very
No,
polite
it's a true
word.
thing.
Actually, I'm
It's a
surprised he's
polite
not
word.
using traditionalist. That's his favorite one.
Traditionalist,
No,
enthusiast,
but it is
anything that
it doesn't.
anything that softens the blow that says that you're,
No, because I
says
guess
that you're
because I have
buying
a
boozy
problem.
illegally.
I guess where Sam and I come from is like, and if you're talking about it, do I want to leave every fucking day? But the other part about it is I
does.
stay around so that hopefully you can, educate people, show them the right way, create friendships and people that you can count on. Like I just, one of the things that's funny is, I'm probably the second most hated man in Ohio bourbon behind Jim Canepa because, of my friendship with him. It cracks me up. I love it.
So would that make me the third?
Probably, yeah. You're
the
like
third.
close.
I'd be
Everybody,
third.
he's way closer
I'm
to Jim
about
than
to
I
be
am.
the fourth.
But
So.
the
Yeah,
fourth,
yeah.
after this
We talked
podcast,
about this
yeah.
before you came in. So, there's one of those things that people think that I get some kind of treatment for, it, but I get a lot of hate, and it keeps me warm at night. But it also it makes me feel good. And the people that and it's funny, the people that hate me. I'll say this, now we're on camera thing. People that hate me, if I know you hate me and have something bad to say to me, I know you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
No, but
And that's what's great. But no, I don't. I want to leave every day
Ooh, that's
because
pretty.
there's some people that that ruin it. But there's a lot of people that are super passionate about this that love it as much as we do. And we have a position in our group and in the Ohio market to be able to bring things to people that they can't normally get.
What's your group?
So our group's called Central Ohio Bourbon. I've got the glass here.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little logo here.
Right.
It's,
right.
We're probably getting shut down on Facebook.
We
by the way.
rebranded recently.
Yeah.
Now we do all at-cost sales, so it's basically people that are going down to Kentucky doing whatever.
You have meetings?
We haven't been able to this year, obviously, but we like to get together up at OPA and go see Genty up there. He takes care of us, so we try and get up there.
Genty has been on the podcast before, and
Genty's a
Genty
good
is
guy.
one of those guys. He's a very aggressive, go after it type of guy. He wants to constantly increase his ever-growing inventory.
But he also wants to share it, and that's one of the things
He
that
does
we
share
the
it.
second part of the same time as we were at cost. We also
He doesn't just
we
put
trade
him on the
secondary.
wall
We trade secondary.
Now,
so.
and the other thing I will say is, like, and to his point about earlier about how I responded initially about my thoughts in the secondary market, where you're like, well, do people hate it, or do they want it? You know, what are the prevailing thoughts are? And I think there's two trains of thought. One are the people that are like, this is the worst. The flippers buy everything. They sell everything, so we can't get anything. But I disagree with that about as much as you could possibly disagree with anything, because there's this picture that floats around on the internet every now and then you'll see where there's this store somewhere and they had like 20 cases of William LaRue Weller and George T. Stagg and everything, and it was like $65, and they're just sitting out. That picture was in like 2003. Now, there hasn't been anything like that in 10 plus years.
No.
So
right.
the people that think that they're just going to walk into a liquor store if the secondary market gets abolished are wrong. Because actually, liquor stores have always been and always will be, for the most part. If you can walk in and you see a bottle that you want on a shelf, it's well above what you would pay for on the secondary market. And it was that way before, too.
Or secondary price. Like if you go to say,
no, you're talking, but not.
But
no,
what I'm
everyone will complain about Ohio. Like, okay,
We're-
like,
'cause
we
we're
can't,
controlled-
we can't get, you can't.
I guess
everyone,
I'm talking
like
out.
right
I'm
now,
talking out of state.
Out of
let's talk-
state,
yeah,
because
you
we're a
talk about-
controlled
you
state.
talk
Yeah,
about-
it is what it
I'm
is.
talking on a national level
Yeah.
almost, because this is almost
And it is
this is a
national. It's not
national.
just Ohio.
There are so
Right.
many, like I said, there's micro markets.
No,
but
trust me. Whenever I've
but-
gone back to Illinois and I see shit on the shelf over there in
It's
Illinois,
ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. That's.
Yeah, go to New York.
you
You,
could
you
get
want
it
you want to
sa-
get a Pappy 23, you're going to pay
$2,500,
$200,
$3,000 at
It's
a
right
store.
there, and you can.
But you could go
buy,
get it for
you could buy-
$2,000 online.
Yeah, you can buy a guy. You
Shipped
can buy
to your door. You don't leave your
Right.
house. But that's and so that's like where people are like, oh, I'll
Hands-free
just go
delivery.
get it. And it's like,
Is
well,
he-
no,
he
you
does-
won't,
he does great.
because
He's like-
honestly, at this point, especially in today's market, if the secondary market went away, the people that are going to get it are going to be the people that come in and buy $5,000 worth of wine from a store. They're still going to hold it for them, and they're going to sell it to them, and you're never going to see it. So I think that the secondary market actually has a really good place in the market entirely. Like, it's almost like if you're buying Ohio State football tickets, okay?
All right.
There's how many are season tickets? If there
Right.
was no ticket or StubHub or Ticketmaster, you would never get any of those tickets. Or if they kicked everybody off the streets and said you can't, and the people peddling tickets on the streets couldn't sell them, you'd never go to a game, because you'd only be able to buy them from Ohio State, and you'd only be able to get them through this, and then that would be it, and then you'd never get them. But because these people buy these season tickets, it's pretty comparable. Like, these people buy these season tickets, they offer up some of their package.
Right.
Sure, you're paying more than they did.
Right.
But you can still go watch Ohio State beat Michigan down.
Because you want to go.
Because
and
you
because
want it.
you want that bourbon. It's the same. You're saying that's the same principle.
So here's how Sam and I have like different philosophy. We agree on a lot of things, but like so last Christmas time frame, I was in New York visiting
My favorite
family.
Christmas song.
Came across some George T. Stagg, which I love. He loves. Okay. I talked the guy down. I think it was like to $400 out the door.
Which was a
Yeah.
great price on the
Great
bottle.
price.
They were 2017 George T. Staggs
So
too, which
I ended up getting, what was it, 3 or 4 bottles?
he got a case, so there's 3 of them.
3 bottles of it. I negotiated down. I think it was like, maybe 45,
400,
40,
yeah.
something, whatever. So, I personally think he is absolutely crazy to spend. Here's where for $400 for that bottle of bourbon. I have one in the basement. I paid $99 for.
Okay.
I would wait 2 years to get another one at $99 before I'd pay $400. And that's where you have a different thing. But I don't hate him for it, because I gladly bought the
Why
bottle,
would you?
and I
If
could have
he
bought the
has
bottle
the
myself.
means to do it, then
But the difference is now, like, I could kick myself because that bottle. If I would have bought those 3 bottles and waited maybe till today, I could have made how much off those now?
Well,
Probably 125 bucks.
Yeah, so
all right, and the same principle applies to my
375.
my 12-year Pappy 2 bottles that I've had in there. That the first one's gone, the second one isn't open yet. But once again, under the right circumstances, sitting behind you two guys is my neighbor Bill Mattis. If there's a special occasion, and I think it requires opening up the 12-year Pappy, we're gonna open it. I mean, I'm gonna open it. And we have another friend who I won't mention by name. He's laughing. We have another friend who is that covets the bourbons as well and buys them and is so thrilled when he gets them. But oh my God, you have to go through lock and key, literally lock and key, in order to get
down the stairs,
to get
knock,
to
special
them.
knock.
And
Sounds like the real black market.
Yeah, right.
You talked about honor, but the funny thing is, Sam knows how I operate. You can say this for I know how you operate, and that's the key that makes it the people agree with it and have fun with the black. As long as you know how that person plays the game. The problem that's happened in the past few years is people pretend to play a game, and when that you think you have them read, they change the rules. So I know example. If I ever find a GCS bottle, one of the first people I call is Sam.
Right.
Because he knows I'm going to keep it and I'm going to open
Right.
that
Yeah,
one.
he's not going to grab that
I'm gonna
bottle,
drink it.
and then a year later, when we talked about making $125, I all of a sudden see this bottle come out and you're selling it for $525, and I'm thinking, wow, I think I got that bottle for you. So there's
jerk.
The key with the bourbon secondary market is to really be honest with who you are and what your classification is. Are you a traditionalist? I just want to say that again. Are you a flipper? If you're a flipper, just say you're a flipper, and I think people respect that. I mean, they may not like it, but they say, hey, if you. My thing is, if a flipper stands in line for 24 hours and they get a bottle,
and I
they
buy
earn
from
the
him.
bottle.
I buy from him, and I have no problem with it. I think what he's getting at is there are times where there are people that you hook them up, you get them stuff at retail that you're like, hey, I got this good price. Do you want it? Yep. And then they turn around and maybe they sell it. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's the next time you deal with them, they're offering you at full secondary price. And you're like, okay, man, I'm not doing anything for you anymore.
Yeah.
But
I stopped chasing what a lot of people call the unicorns. I stopped chasing the unicorns. If I come across the bottles by chance, whether I'm in Kentucky or Indiana or even in Ohio, if I come across a bottle, yay, I'll pick it up. And being bourbon traditionalists or enthusiasts, whatever the case might be, I've also learned through the years that I just enjoy a good bourbon. And as we know, there are a ton of moderately priced good bourbons and ryes that we don't have to bend over backwards to break our bank in order to get, which is a nice segue into our guest bottle for tonight, the LONGBRANCH, the Oak and Texas Mesquite Charcoal Refined Love Child of Matthew McConaughey and Eddie Russell. And I got to tell you, well, I did think it was just all right.
But if you heard his story, if you hear him tell the story about it,
well, he can.
You will. If you guys were, I think Sam was there. You were there. I got to hear him, and you will fall in love with this because you want to try it because
it's a great
storytelling. Yeah,
can you try to? He told it to us for our listening audience.
Yeah.
Can
Share the story.
Tell the story about it, but I've got
I don't know 100%, but basically,
and you have to try to do it in your best Matthew McConaughey voice.
Yeah. I would take my shirt off, but I don't want to.
Would you be more comfortable sitting in the back of my Lincoln vehicle and tell the story there because he's also
you don't have enough hair for it, to be honest.
No, but I think a lot of us in Columbus a couple years ago. I think it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was like February 2019.
Yeah, I guess it.
Where Eddie was in town.
When he was in town.
It seemed like longer.
I know.
Yeah, it was only a year and a half ago.
Hen
Down
Quarter.
in Dublin.
In Dublin.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's where we did the pick at, was at Hen Quarter, but he was up at Voss.
That's where we all went. Yeah.
So he did have that tasting, and he did talk about how his dad Jimmy wasn't one of my favorite takeaways. His dad Jimmy thought this was absolutely crazy that they were doing this, but Eddie, if you remember, he talked about Matthew McConaughey reached out to him,
right?
Wanted to do something different to honor his state of Texas. I remember the takeaway from it was they were sending a bunch of stuff back and forth to him in Texas to try to figure it out.
Is that where the whole Texas mesquite?
Yeah, they found out they were trying to figure out how to
'cause
change the wild turkey recipe and incorporate Texas and Matthew McConaughey.
How much money did Matthew McConaughey spend on that to get wild turkey to change their recipe?
Yeah, I mean it's so far. That's probably I think one of the most far off Would you agree the most far off products that they have? I think.
Yeah, but what I also thought was really cool was we did a barrel pick that day with him and or earlier in the day, and we were talking about Long Branch specifically with Eddie, and it was kind of a two-part conversation because at first we were talking about rare breed, and Eddie is very protective of and very proud of the rare breed product he's putting out now. And he said, over the past 5 or 6 years since Jimmy stopped really putting it together because that was his dad's that was what his dad was the most proud of. And he said he struggled trying to, because I think it was 112.8 proof for a while before the most recent ones were back up to 116.8, which is which is what their entry proof is and everything. When you get samples, that's what they're at for barrels and stuff. And he said that he was really proud because he thought that what they'd put out that year was the closest he had. But he said it was a little bit of a catch-22 because there's if you look on the bottom of the rare breed bottles, there's this LL/G. It's the different batches.
Right.
And for that particular batch, the LLG, they had just started making Long Branch for the first time. So for Long Branch, they started using some of the younger barrels.
I'm listening, Sam.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, they started using some of the younger barrels. So because of that, they didn't have enough barrels for their traditional rare breed. So what he had to do was take older barrels that he would normally use for Russell's Reserve or other products like that, and then use those to blend to create the rare breed that he had. So it created a whole different profile that he thought matched more so of what his dad had been creating as rare breed. And he's really happy with it, but he said it would change after that particular batch when it would go back to normal because then they would be back up to production amounts and with whatever they needed. But I just thought that was a really cool insight to how because that actually was a fantastic batch, and now it's moved on, and it's still very good. But I just thought it was interesting to see how this particular bottle impacted what he did with the other with basically what he considers his dad's namesake. Almost.
Yeah, but I think Long Branch is his first real. I mean, you're talking about the same product, but Long Branch is his first. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, and I may be like, there's a lot of people like maybe Ann who's watching who would know way more than we do about wild turkey. But I kind of took away from that was this was his kind of. His first thing that he did, kind of underneath his, out from his dad's shadow.
Well, I mean, and that's got to be hard. That's got to be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean,
you kind of break it from the family.
You guys don't remember? I thought one of the funniest things he said is his dad thought this was absolutely crazy,
ludicrous. Yeah,
and he didn't see what the point of it. But what's great about this bourbon? My opinion about this bourbon is like this isn't something I would drink every day, but this is a bottle of bourbon that I think every bourbon person has in their house because it's a great bourbon that if someone's starting out and you want them to get something that
it's available.
It's it kind of moves you in.
It's 86 proof. It's not going to knock you on your ass. And I got to be honest with you. This is my second go round with it, and I probably am enjoying it more than I did at that first tasting.
Well, and to Long Branch's defense, we were also trying it with 3 of Russell's top-notch products.
Yeah,
too.
so you just
you know what I mean.
You're sipping on right now a private barrel Russell. So you take a sip of it, and I don't think you can compare them.
Well, he sipped. What do you
No,
mean
he's still got he's got the Long Branch in the ice.
No, he moved to something. He's
way ahead of us.
He
upgraded me.
He was like, give me something different. You guys were on camera. I was thinking something. But no, but I think with him,
from the whiskey business aspect of it, you guys enjoy that. You guys,
I enjoy it.
And you think this is a good everyday bourbon?
Absolutely, and actually, I think
it's a good everyday bourbon for someone who enjoys the lower proof stuff.
And I especially think a perfect example is my dad. My dad loves bourbon, but does he like it the way that I do? No. He doesn't like, and he comes up, I try and ooh and ahh with these bottles, and he's like, I don't care. And I pull out 130 proof George T. Stagg, and he's like, this is terrible. It's so hot. There's so much alcohol. Why are you drinking this? Are you just, what's wrong with you? Do you have a problem?
Yeah, I get that way with some of the Bookers.
Super. He sent me a picture of this. Actually, it's about a month ago, and he's like, if you had that, I said, yeah, it's pretty good. And he said it's his favorite. This is what he buys now. He just buys this.
It's reasonable. It's like, what, $39
and it's
a
marketing
bottle?
Genius, though.
It is.
I mean, come on. Seriously, he's become a brand ambassador for him. It takes and that's what it is right now. I think
it's better than the Mila Kunis one.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I don't know about that. What?
I prefer Mila.
I don't know about you, Sam. But
I like her better, but I'm saying he's a better ambassador than she was.
That's what I think it was a partnership. That's one of the big things.
That's when you know that you're a serious bourbon drinker when you can pick Matthew McConaughey over Mila Kunis.
I'm
what
sure.
you
I'm
know.
sure.
That's what you know.
I'm sure I'll get made fun of for that one.
That's
But
how
yeah.
you know you're serious about your bourbon.
No, but I think it's a good move. I mean, like I said before, got him out from it's his first. What I know of is his first thing that he went off, and then you incorporate a huge celebrity into bourbon, and it helps. I mean, it gets people there. I mean, like I bartend at Friday nights sometimes, and I'm telling you, women love Long Branch, and I think a lot of it has to do with Matthew McConaughey.
So you think it's a whole subliminal thing?
Well, no, I think actually a perfect example of what you're saying too is like we talk about there's all these limited releases and this and that, which are recently I drove past the Heidelberg Distribution Center in Dayton. I don't know if anybody's been by that. That is the biggest warehouse I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in my life, and it actually got me thinking about how small. I was like, the allocated products that we all want in the lottery and stuff. That fills up maybe like the top shelf of one rack of that entire place.
That's what you're thinking about. I was thinking about how do we hit that, and nobody.
Well,
really
I
catches.
thought I wasn't going to say that because who knows, but at the same time,
Hey,
but
they
my point is,
I was thinking, hey, there's
a couple years ago they stole a shitload of Pappy. Right?
well,
if you want to turn this into a heist film and let this be
that's the black market. So, but no, my point is that
dark web. Come on,
you're talking about it being Eddie's first thing that he's done on his own. Now he is doing these limited releases, his Master's Keep and this and that, and those, which are awesome. They are fantastic, but
$199, $159,
$199, and at the same point too, like. My dad's not buying that. Most people aren't buying that. So maybe he's doing those on his own, and those are pet projects, and those are great. But something like this, that's a mass market product. That's like the real test of like what is he doing for the company.
Well, at the end of the day, you got to think about the company, and you got to think about what everyday bourbon drinker
the
is gonna be.
enthusiasts don't, or the traditionalists don't mean as much.
Yeah, exactly. Sam and I were just talking about in the discussion earlier in the week about another distillery has changed up. Heaven Hill's changed some product, and I'm. What we forget is like we say enthusiasts. We're bourbon nerds. We're bourbon fanatics, and what we like, a lot of everyday bourbon drinkers don't drink. There's guys that have been drinking Maker's Mark, regular Maker's Mark for 40 years. That's all they drink 2 bottles a week. That's all they've been drinking. If you told them, hey, there's this really good bourbon, bottle and bond, 17-year from Wild Turkey. You can get it for $199. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy.
I'm not doing
My brother-in-law loves bourbon, and he bought a bottle of I can't remember what it was recently, and it was like $49. And he's like, that's a lot more than I really like to spend most times. And he loves bourbon, so but like this is something that I think would like honestly, now that we're talking about it. He's got a birthday coming up. Probably get him this because I don't think he's had it.
Guys,
so.
I can sell you a bottle.
I'm a Jack Daniels. I'm a Jack Daniels guy. Jack Daniels is my everyday. Jack
Daniels single barrels. Have you tried those?
What the
Jack Daniels single barrels?
Hello, I was down there when we picked them.
Yeah, have you had the barrel proofs though?
Yes, yes. I for the ones for the state of Ohio.
Oh my God!
He's the number 2 guy. He's the number 2 guy. I told you guys.
I just did a blind sample of one last night, and it was my second highest rating I've ever had.
I was down there when we picked them. So Hansberry,
well, I had reached out to some people if they had any questions, and now that we're talking about kind of the distilleries, and I don't know if you guys necessarily know the exact response to this, but this is from our buddy Jesse Hubbard. He's an industry influencer. He's a cocktologist.
He's a
cocktologist.
I don't think that
is that Sam's.
I don't think
thing?
that.
That's my new nickname.
That's why Sam said
That's
why Sam said like Matthew McConaughey, cocktologist. Sam.
You get a cocktologist.
I don't think it takes that long.
Yeah.
Well, he's a damn good cocktologist. But he said, I've always wanted to know about how the distilleries feel about the secondary market, as we're kind of talking about Russell.
I can answer that question.
Hey, you've been on picks. You and I have been fortunate. I mean, we all have. All 3 of us have been on.
The distilleries are going to tell you this: if you want to try that product, go to a bar that's got it. They want you to go to a bar and they want you to pay an exorbitant amount of money to have it there. They want you to go to the bar to have it.
So I think to answer his question on the secondary market, I think you will get a company answer, and I think you'll get a real answer.
All right, give me both.
I think that your company answer is that when the large group we were talking about got shut down, there is the Van Winkles. Julian came out and said, this was because of me. I got it shut down. I reached out. I did this because our bottles of Pappy were selling. And we want it to be accessible for the the retail consumer at any point, right? That is a great company line.
That's a great line.
That is a fantastic line. Now, the other part of that is does he really feel that way? Because the stores are selling it for the same price. And he's not doing anything about it. He doesn't. They don't. They claim that they do. Oh, report a store if they're selling over retail, but the same places get the same bottles and they sell them for $2,300 for a bottle of Pappy 23. Now I think
New York, Vegas, California.
exactly
the states that are not controlled
places.
states.
Non-controlled states.
Non-controlled states.
Whenever I say these exorbitant prices, we're always talking non-controlled states.
Non-controlled states.
Because Ohio is such an outlier, and it's great, and with the price control and everything like that. But it is such an outlier on things like that it's like, to talk about the secondary market, you almost have to relate to the other states. But I do think that there are times where there are, for example, there's a lot of smaller distilleries right now that are up and coming that are trying to take part of this boom. For example, I wore a hat here, but it is hot and I am not wearing it. But there's
I wore a hat too, but it was black
a
and
company
white.
called Blom Brothers out of
I love Blom Brothers.
Love
Blom
I
Brothers.
am a Blom slut. So
Which they,
I mean,
but they never distilled
I
any of their own
will- I
juice.
will
You actually you should put
He's
that
a
on,
coctologist.
you should
and
put
a
that on your
Blom slut.
resume for coctologist.
I'll
that
tell you what,
you
if there's
are
any,
a
if
Blom
there's
slut.
anybody,
Yes.
if there are any market
Local
industry people looking
coctologists.
for a coctologist that loves it's a Blom slut, like hit me up. But
Hansberry,
no,
make a note. Hashtag coctologist.
I'm on it.
So, but what I'm getting at though is that their whole product brand is that what they're doing is they are sourcing, because for the they got to age their barrels that they're
Right.
making, and when they start distilling, so they've got to buy and source these other barrels, and most of the time it's coming from one of two places: George Dickel in Tennessee,
Right.
or it's coming from MGP. Now MGP's changed their model lately, so they're selling younger barrels, a lot of 5-year barrels instead of the 8, 10, 12-year barrels they were selling. Those 8, 10, 12-year barrels are incredible. I mean, I have a whole MGP shelf of stuff. But what happens is they are looking at they're bottom this MGP so they can pay their bills, right? They're selling bottles so
Right.
they can pay their bills in the meantime, pay their taxes once they actually get their stuff up and going. But in that time, these bottles all of a sudden are showing up on the secondary market, right? Hey man, this Blom's really good. This MGP's really good. Blom's got
It's
the
MGP,
best
not
MGP
Blom.
they've ever had. Well, I know, but they're looking at the label. Well, what starts showing up is that label name. That label name, the price starts going up. People start collecting, and all of a sudden people are like, well, what's Blom Brothers? And now they're no longer sourcing MGP. They're out of it was called the Old Fangled Not Our Bourbon. It was their funny
Right.
little play on it being sourced. Now that label's dead because they don't have MGP anymore. But everybody knows what Blom Brothers is. They make good gin. They make good vodka. They're making their own bourbon and rye. And I was down in Kentucky the other weekend, and one of the Gallenstein stores had Blom Brothers. And you know what? Couldn't keep it on the shelf. And it was
bet
their
not.
own distillate.
What was it going for?
Yeah, but you're keeping.
But they're selling it for retail.
But what do you keep? But that's like I gotta like step on this one a little because I absolutely think like he's a Blom. What do you call Blom slut?
Well,
Blom
this
slut.
was just
It's a
one
Blom slut
example.
label, but the guy, a lot of guys that are buying
good
those
stuff.
that are into the secondary market, they walk in and they see a Blom sticker on it, and they automatically think they're getting the juice that you love
Right.
that you're a Blom slut for 2 years ago.
But
Same
did-
thing
but
that
did it
happened.
work?
But they're not.
But that's it goes back to what you said before. Does that distillery care about the secondary market? No, because it just helps them push their younger bourbon.
Right.
Does Wild
Yeah,
Turkey?
so-
No, they
No,
don't
but
care about
yeah,
Wild
like so.
Turkey.
I want to go throw this back to you. You asked the question. You've been on a lot of picks. You answer your own question about what do you think the distillers? The question about what do you think
from
the
Jesse.
Well, I
distillers
think
like
the
or not.
distillers. I think the distillers actually, I think that they want you to go. They like certain bars get certain bottles.
Yeah.
Some restaurants here in Columbus, Ohio, are privy to certain bottles and get certain and they sell it to those restaurants. And if you really want a 23 Pappy and don't want to spend the exorbitant amount of money to get a 23 Pappy, well, they want you to go to the bar and
They want you to go to license holder of the state and make
Yeah.
that person to make money, and then
Yeah.
I mean I feel the same way with you. The micro distilleries, I 100% agree with Sam, no doubt. But I think the bigger distilleries, I think they know it's whether they like it or not, it's a necessary evil.
I would agree with that.
And I think wholeheartedly, if I were to bring in 15 bottles of a very high allocated bottle into Ohio, I wouldn't put it out to a
wouldn't
liquor
let it
agency.
go.
I'd put it to Century Club. I put it to Barrel and Taps. I put it to the Prohibition. I put it
Opa.
open where somebody can
Let-
where Max. Because what happens if there are bottles there, if you put 15
Applebee's.
bottles Yeah, Applebee. Yeah, but it does go there. It's crazy.
Get a nice
Yeah.
George
Where
T.
it's at.
Stagg,
It's
Applebee
crazy. So I
going.
think, in general, they know it's a necessary evil, and there's really.
I'd like a
Coke.
George.
Well, let me ask you
Go
this.
to Applebee's. I'd like a George T. Stagg and Coke, please.
This is,
But there's like a Chinese restaurant here. There's like a Chinese restaurant here in Columbus. I always forget the name of it. That supposedly.
Wings.
no.
Wings.
Well,
Wings.
has
Some of the greatest bourbon out there.
No,
Wings.
China Bell.
No, it's
No,
Wings.
Wings.
But China Bell has like the
Shit.
Dever. They have
Yeah.
everything.
China,
That's what we're around.
but Wings has always had
Yeah, exactly.
a
That's
huge,
what I'm talking about.
remarkable Scotch collection.
Yeah,
But let me ask you this question though. So I know you're saying that the micro distilleries, like I was saying, definitely don't care, and it probably is actually profitable and better for them.
It's a great
But
business
do you
model.
think over the past 5 years, if one, let's Buffalo Trace for example, let's just use them because they're the biggest and the easiest to use. Do you think that there's any part of them that is like, this hasn't been bad for us?
I was going to bring that up. Thank you, Sam.
No, I'm not saying it.
No.
I'm not saying it's not bad for them at all. What I mean though is
Doth profess too much.
yeah,
Yes.
it comes down to you did hit the nail on the head. You know, the Van Winkle family wants to go after the secondary market, but doesn't want to go after the liquor store in Kentucky.
Do they want to go after the secondary market, or do they feel like they have to at least appear that they're going?
But this is
after
what I
the
talked about before.
secondary
But
market?
here's the thing. That's what I was going to bring up. Is this is what I love about this is being. I'm now obviously you wanted the
crazy
Jack
industry.
Daniels pick, so you're number 2 in the state behind Jim. I pushed back to 3. As much as this going on, like the worst thing that's happening
He's
in
an
the secondary
influencer.
market is that groups get shut down. Like I don't know if we don't know if anybody in our and Sam and I are involved a lot. He's more of a national guy, I would say. That's
And,
a strong way, just because of what
I
he does.
used to be more so, and not so much anymore.
But no one's getting arrested. There's nobody raiding your house and doing that. There's no like as we're doing a trade or we're doing a drop off in Cabela's parking lot.
Yeah.
That the liquor agency's rolling up with armored
There's
truck.
there's-
They might not have armored
Gilly
vehicles
It's a
anymore.
sting!
They're
No,
like,
no
armored
group yet.
They may lose
dude
their armored
dressed up as a
vehicles, but
bass
so I don't
outside.
think there's a lot
Put
of.
the bottle down. Put the bottle down.
But you talked about how it's gotten bigger and it's gotten more open, but there's really no enforcement. I hope Jim is not listening to this.
No, Jim's going to listen to
but
this.
What I mean is,
What's up, Jim?
Hey,
Is,
Jim.
Hey, Jim.
is I think they all know what's going on, but there's really no enforcement to it. I'm not saying there should be. It's a necessary evil, and I think I've had a lot of conversation with Jim, and one of the things I always tell him and a lot of people is he uses a couple analogies. One is, I don't care if you're going 70 and a 60, nobody cares.
Nobody
If you go 95 and a 60,
Right.
you're gonna get pulled over and you're gonna get harassed.
Like we do.
I think that's the same. No, but I think the same. The second part of it is you just have there's really been no enforcement at all. So you have that, and then the other thing is
well, the state did a little scare last year.
I don't know if there's been no enforcement, because then if you
But
say there's
tell
been
me-
no enforcement,
tell me something. Like
Yeah,
if
don't make them start doing it.
Dude,
Yeah.
they're not
Don't-
going to. There's no. Dude, there's.
They have.
It's not going to happen.
It's
in
not-
our
it's
state.
not
and I'm only
gonna
talking
happen.
I understand that.
specifically
I
about
know
our-
I know it's not.
I'm only
It's not
talking
gonna happen.
specifically
Butt me over there,
about our
Baldy.
state, and I'm not doing this to blow smoke up Jim Canepa's ass. I know in our state that they have cracked down on, say, like, you can't have a list, you can't put shit in the back.
Which I personally, you don't like
And-
the list.
No.
I absolutely love the list because
I don't like the list.
because Sam and I would stop at a certain liquor store in Columbus, like
I-
3
and I'll
days
say
a
this,
week.
I would
You
say
gotta
this.
work it.
No,
I know
3 days
guys
a
that
week.
spend
Hey,
$10,000 in wine.
Hey,
and
you like vodka? Oh my gosh, Dino, you're not gonna believe this. I was out of state. I got this vodka. You can only get in Kentucky.
Vermont Gold, baby.
Here it is, baby. Here's this vodka. Have this. And then we worked hard. I mean, people worked hard, but now
I used to be on a list.
But and so you didn't like the list?
I used to be on a list.
I'm 50.
So do you like the list or don't you like
I'm
the list?
talking about before 2019. I
Yeah,
used
yeah.
to be on a list back in 2016 and 15.
But you were on the list for what reasons?
I was on the list because they would save shit back and they go, "Oh, Mr. Dino."
But-
But you weren't on the list
But to
because
Chay's point is because
I
you
didn't
were,
ask
you
to be
weren't
on
a
a
dick.
list.
You weren't a dick.
I didn't
You were
ask to be on
cool.
the
You
list.
spent
Weren't a
a shit
dick.
ton of
I
money
was-
there.
I was
Yeah, you
Well,
frequented the place.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
ask
You knew who they
let me
were.
ask you
The
this.
guy.
There's guys. So I think there's two parts to it. There are your Krogers here
Right.
that are just getting product.
But dude, one of my best connections ever was Kroger.
No, and I'm not. And
Best connection ever was Kroger.
And we're on the same page here.
Best ever.
But what I'm getting at here is there are also stores here that are owned by private owners that their money is not made off liquor, and they are selling. They have guys that spend $10,000 to $15,000 a year with them on wine, and once a year, twice a year, they will say, "Hey, I pulled this bottle from wholesale for you.
Yeah,
it's a special one. It's an EHT barrel proof."
Yeah,
like I'm rewarding you for being such a good customer.
But Sam, what's happened though is with our groups is the guy when you used to get that, like, trust me.
Now everyone brags about it.
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. And you know this. You've been to
we
places.
fucked it up.
I saw places that I can go to, and I know the people
100%.
that work there, and they could get a delivery on Tuesday, and I can walk in there on Saturday, and if he has something for me, he's gonna give it to me. The thing I don't do is I don't get on Facebook, show a picture of it, tell everybody where I got it.
All right, well, there
explain
it is.
to the guy how you get it. That's what's happened, and you can't deny that. That you talked
No,
about.
I don't deny it, and I don't disagree with
The
it.
big thing about the secondary market, like, you know, that used to be a secret, or the black market, you kept things secret. Like, now we have groups publish Excel spreadsheets that tell you deliveries of every place.
Right.
Absolutely fucking hate it, because it's like hunting. Like, if you go hunting for deer, he's a hunter, I'm not. But
you're not going to give anybody your spot.
If I go to a 10 by 10,
I see a deer that I know is in the area. Like, nobody's going to hear about it until that deer's
But
dead.
what I mean is, if you go down to Texas, what I've seen before, I used to live in Texas, right? If you go down to some place where they have 25-foot fences that keep the deer in there, and they say, you pay us $750 for 2 days, we're going to guarantee you to get a deer.
Worst.
They do that. So
I know, and it's
this is what
bullshit.
I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's the same
and
thing.
we're on the
That's
same
what's
page.
happened in the bourbon world right now. Is everybody wants stuff and they don't want to work for it.
The other part of it,
it's a societal thing. Like, hey Chay, where did you get this bottle? And I can tell you, I share that with a lot of people. You know what's happened to me in the long run? 95% of the people, fuck me. 3 weeks later, they will go there. They know about the place. They'll go there, and guess what?
So
they mysteriously.
Why do you still do
I don't
it?
do it anymore. I don't share it. Like, he knows this. I do not share
I
shit.
share places
I
with
share
him
with
and maybe
him.
one other places.
There's maybe 5 people that know where I go.
So
if he
your
gets
group,
a bottle,
your group that you used to share
huge.
with becomes even smaller, and now
Yeah, it
you
has
just-
to
which
be.
has happened.
and now you just share amongst those who you truly trust.
Now I think yes.
So
I don't always
you
trust
really,
it. No,
so
and
you
it's
really
almost
become a smaller group that is honor among thieves.
Exactly.
That are the true thieves and
like
actually
Robin
have
Hood.
true honor.
But I think to kind
Is that
of
what
bring
you're
it back,
saying?
and to kind of unwind it a little bit back to what you were talking about with the list too, was now with it being a basically first come first served basis, is that now we have in Columbus we've got if you live right by the Graceland store here,
I do.
right?
Okay.
Great people there,
Nice people.
had awesome lists. Now, if you go there, there will be 25 people standing there waiting
2
for
hours.
Not
2
me.
o'clock. Not you anymore.
Not me anymore.
No. But there are people, and you know why they're doing it? Because they're going to get that bottle of Weller Antique, and they're going to sell it for $25 and make $25, and they're going to get it
They're
all.
going to sell for
So,
7.
Well, the Weller
and-
Antique's
but-
not going for $25 anymore.
Well, no,
No,
I'm saying
they're
they're
saying
going
for
to
$50.
make
They're
$25.
gonna make
Yeah,
$25.
dude,
They're
guys,
going to sell it for $100. They're going to ship it to
Blandon's,
somebody
they
and
take
spend
a picture.
$25,
Blandon's, they're so proud of it.
and they're going to get it
shot.
for $25.
And then
But-
an hour later, they're selling it.
But the point that I was, and it kind of goes back to the point I was making about with the guys rewarding people that are spending at their stores, that they know that guy that they're giving that bottle to, they're giving to him because he, first off, if he's spending that much money, he doesn't need the money
appreciates
to
it.
spend the $25. He's going to keep that bottle for himself and drink it. He's not just coming in there to make money off their back.
So that's me.
So
I mean,
he-
how
Exactly.
thrilled am I that Weller Special Reserve, the green label,
Which, is shit now.
huh?
It's horrible now.
But
It's horrible,
It's but when it first came out,
No,
readily
it's so horrible because it's really available now. Before, I love the brother. I
And it's
brought
more
back
expensive.
9 bottles.
But
I brought
my-
out
my
9
point-
bottles
my
in a suitcase.
point
in
being-
Atlanta.
They're still the same.
My point,
I'm making a joke.
my
I'm making a
point
joke.
being, is that it's $29 a bottle right now in Ohio, and whenever I see it on the shelf, I pick one up because how lucky am I in Ohio, and like I said, not blowing smoke up Canepa's ass because
You are.
He's done a great job with the Weller
with
and
the Weller
incredible.
products. I could pick up a Weller Special Reserve when
You
I
can get an OWA if you want one.
and I pick one up, because it's become it's become an everyday bourbon.
Absolutely.
As
And
opposed
and
to-
it's not in every
But
state.
that's the
No, it's
problem.
not in every state.
But here's the
But
thing.
for
I
me,
will,
it's
I
becoming
will
an
throw,
everyday
but I will
bourbon.
throw that out to him. Is like I made a joke about why it's shit because about 2.5 years ago I was down near Atlanta. I bought a suitcase, brought back 9 bottles of Weller Special Reserve, and people were, what was your term?
Losing their shit.
Yeah, over these bottles. Nowadays, people send pictures in our groups of a case of them sitting there and go like, "Oh, go get."
There's
your case."
11 cases of
Meanwhile,
Special Reserve at
meanwhile, if you
Kroger,
took the Special Reserve and you went to say Wyoming or California,
they would be like,
people will chew their arms off for it. So
get it.
we've gotten spoiled. Like everyone says, Ohio sucks.
Yeah.
We don't get anything.
And
the
that
fact
was-
that you can walk in and get a Weller Green Label, and if you really want to find an OWA, you can get one every single week.
but
if
it's
you
such,
can.
but it's such an impossible balance now of because of the secondary
You
market.
have one here?
But in all seriousness, is it an impossible balance
No,
of
I love it.
there's a secondary market. There's Jim trying to make
No,
everything equal
114.
for everyone.
Right.
And there's this bottle that he has done a great job of in antique of acquiring for the state, which no other state has access to like we do.
The only other state is actually Texas.
But they exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Texas and
But
Texas. I think Texas,
okay, but there's
Ohio,
48
and
other
Oklahoma.
states.
But no, Texas, Ohio. Like honestly, like
But-
Texas are the only people that have the ship.
But
That's their marketing.
but that's my point though. Is like it's we can walk in and I know that if I want to go to I walked in the Worthington Kroger at noon on Wednesday and I bought a bottle of antique because there was a case of them just sitting on the ground. If you were in Kentucky or another state and you knew for $49.99 you could go buy a bottle of Weller antique,
Yeah.
there would be a post made in a group and
Oh,
it would be
God.
sold out in 5 minutes.
it
But-
is every day.
But you do that here. But and like literally, if I took that bottle of antique I just bought and I go to Indiana next week for work, like I'm going to,
Right.
and I go to a liquor store there, I can take it in and I can be
Yeah.
like, hey man, I'll give you this, but like sell me that M10 rye for retail.
Yeah,
He will do it in a
OW
second.
in a
He
heartbeat.
brought that up. What I think is one of the I know you. Let's go to
We're
questions.
running out of time. We got to wrap it
Okay, I
up. But Hansberry's
apologize.
got one more thing to get in there. But no, finish that story, Sam.
But,
But no, but OWA has become a commodity on the national market. It's almost like its own currency. So if I take that down to Kentucky, like Sam was saying, I can walk in. That's worth $75.
For our not so informed.
Yeah, what the
whiskey
fuck's
people,
OWA?
OWA, Old Weller
Weller
Antique.
Weller 107.
Old Weller Antique.
Oh well, okay.
Weller
So
Antique
Old
107.
Weller Antique,
You
yeah.
can take that to Michigan. I know a place in Michigan. If I take it to Michigan, guy will pay me $75 a bottle.
Right.
Well,
But-
shit.
but
I
there-
got
I bought
one
him
sitting
12
at home right now. What am I doing?
No, but if I bought 12 of
my
them,
parents
but
live in
the thing about
Indiana.
but
I
the
got a
great
lake
thing
house
about it
in
is
Michigan. What am I
there's
doing?
stores that you can take that to, and I
Come
take
on.
a case of them,
Right.
and people do it. You take a case of them to.
It's like when Seinfeld they put the cans in the
you take a
trunk.
case of them.
That's
It's
gonna be
not
me. Come on
profitable.
now.
But you take a case of them to some states, and you take that case and say, "Here you go." That guy knows he could sell that bottle for $100.
Right.
So you didn't say, "I'll trade you this case for a GTS."
I'll
It's
trade
top-
you.
Yeah,
I'll
there's
trade you.
Because it's off the
There's-
books
not
at that
sell
point.
to
Now
you.
there's
some
one
I'll
part-
trade
sales,
you.
now there's
trades and
one
sales.
part that we haven't talked about yet.
And we're at the well.
That I want to get in. That is another part of it that we haven't even touched. There's selling and trading, and then there's gambling.
Oh
Okay.
I think that needs to be part two because
So
we
this
got
one,
a
this
lot
one, this
of
one might have to. This one might have to run a little
Okay,
longer.
hold
All
that
right.
thought for
I've
one
got a quick
second.
question. Well,
Quick question from Hansberry. We're going to get to the gambling thing. We'll go a little long,
Sure.
Hansberry. I want to hear this because
is
you
from
intrigued me with the word gambling.
This is from Rudy over at High Bank. He, as in your opinion, this could be just a quick couple word answer here. The most novelty black market whiskey, and like basically what like a novelty where normally it wouldn't be much, but it's just something kind of.
Novelty.
Buffalo Trace store picks.
yeah, right.
Seriously,
would be a,
Buffalo
would be a
Trace- you see
novelty?
them all the time.
We're getting a fight right now.
They're on there all the time. They're delicious. Chay has like a million of them. They're fantastic, but they're like one of the things that like literally they're probably the easiest to come around, but people still sell them to make $15.
But they
on
never
them.
used to be that like that.
They
A few
weren't.
years ago when I started.
But
doing
now it's like you can like
that. Novelty.
I can go in most stores. I can find a Buffalo Trace store pick, but if I go in the secondary market, I'm paying $20 extra to get one.
yeah,
Alright.
no novelty. I would say novelty. Ooh, that's
That's-
Because to me,
Well,
like we just
OWA
saw there's
OWA,
a.
but I would say
OWA
but
could be a
OWA is regional.
novelty.
Buffalo Trace store picks are everywhere.
All right,
sure,
interesting.
sure.
All right, before we go, because we got to start wrapping it up. You intrigued me with the whole gambling.
This was the
thing.
last part. I think.
Last part
Yeah,
of
this-
it, real quick. Let's get to the gambling.
So
thing.
there is another part of it that does drive a lot of it, and I am heavily involved in it because I like to gamble. And you asked earlier about why 2020 has been so much more, or has been so much crazier. But basically, there is an aspect to it too where we play a thing called Fireballs. where
My ears pricked up. Like my favorite.
Chay talks about me spending $400 on a GTS, and he thinks I'm crazy for it. But there's a chance I could win one for $40 and spend $40 on one. Now we do. There's a lot of groups, and there's national, local, regional.
I'm picking up on your body language and the hesitance.
I have fun with it.
Yeah.
Well,
He's in his comfort zone. He's like, yeah.
You're
So basically,
you're being
what-
very protective.
But
Well, I'm at number 4 right now. I'm not trying to become number 1. But
but
basically
comes
what
down
happens is basically like we have this thing where like we have this. Let's say this bottle of Longbranch is worth $400. Okay.
All right.
There are out of state lotteries that you have internet access to that run twice a day. So there's a midday and an evening.
Dude,
And they have
Like the pick four?
Just say it,
it's
Sam.
the pick 4.
Oh, it's Illinois Fireball. Just say it. It's a national.
I'm not saying it.
Oh,
But
come
there's
on.
all well. There
You
are
are saying
Come on,
it.
dude.
You
You
are
are
saying it.
but there are. I mean, hell, at this point there are.
today.
I'm in a meat group where like you can get A5 Wagyu based on it. But like
Yeah, there's meat.
So-
There's Yeti. There's
Yeti outdoor whatever. But so basically what happens is you've got 10 spots. So there's the 10 numbers that you pick, and there's the Fireball is the last one. Okay, and that's like the
Alright.
kicker number. So
Wow.
it's 0 through 9. So what'll happen is like I'll put
Wow.
up and honestly I did it earlier
Sam
today.
will put up a bottle. Like
Well, there's
it's-
2 ways that you can do it. There's one, it's a single bottle. You put it up at 0 through 9, okay? And it's like, let's say that the bottle's worth $450, so it's $45 a spot. And typically someone would be like, hey, if you buy a couple spots just to help get everything going, I'll discount it to $43
Sam never
a
does
spot
that,
for
by
you.
the way. He never
No, I
discounts.
don't. Full
Let
price
He's not a
only.
discounter.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
So you'll do that, and what'll happen is everyone comes in, they pick their horse basically,
and they pay their money.
they pay their money, and you wait, and then at 10:30 at night, the
Some
app
people bet
updates,
better
the
than
number
others.
comes through, and bam, like, hey, the 3-ball hit, which is my favorite one, and
Okay. So
and all of a sudden that person gets the bottle.
for $40.
where's the rest of the money going?
Right to the pocket
To
of
the
the
person
person's
that's selling
fireballing
it.
it.
So that person is selling their bottle at full secondary, sometimes a little bit more. And what happens is you do that, and you get the full price. So the person selling it gets their secondary price, but people gamble on it.
The person that's selling it gets their secondary price, but they're also getting the money from the people that
Yeah,
have
exactly.
gambled.
So
Yeah,
let-
so
yeah.
exactly.
Well,
So
so they're making a shitload of money.
No. So
Yes,
they're
Sam.
I
come
mean,
on.
they are making a shitload of money, but
I'm gonna add to, when he's done. I gotta add to. the end
But
of
but
it.
what I'm getting at is that, like, let's say the bottle's worth, I could sell it on the secondary market for $450, and one person pays me $450, or I can get 10 people
but Sam,
to send me $45.
but Sam, be realistic. This is where we differ.
I know, but
wholeheartedly.
I'm
is
just
there are
explaining-
not many people that are buying $450 bottles.
But
tonight.
I
there are a
that's
shit
what
ton
I'm
of
getting-
guys
I'm
that are
But
getting-
he's
spending
spending
$45.
$45 to get a $450.
Oh,
So what?
yeah.
Yes.
bottle of
So what
bourbon.
happens is you
He's
ha-
gambling.
I'm gambling.
He's gambling.
So now you made it
$45.
illegal and double legal.
Hold on. So what the point is though is that like you're not getting like
I don't
4,500.
disagree.
You're
It's-
getting you're still getting 450, right?
Right.
And you're getting the money for it. So I'm doing it, but each person's like, hey, shit, I'm getting a bottle for $45. You know, this is great.
So
This
what's
is-
the
So
difference?
what- let
What's
me-
the
can
difference
I-
between what's the difference between that and the lottery?
Let me. But
it
here,
is the lottery.
It is lottery, but
So
it-
there's
but
that,
it's-
and there's
it's just
also-
a
Let me add
lottery.
the next
It's
part
just
about
a
this. So-
lottery with a whole fucking
Let me
different
add the
face.
next part about this, which is where whatever Sam has
What
said
I'm
is
getting at.
no. I'm great with what he does. That's fine. I'm great with the guys that like to gamble. I'm not a gambler. I just have never been.
I'm
my entire
a
life.
degenerate
My problem
gambler.
though
That
is when
it.
my problem though is when
Yeah,
the
don't
guy-
teach
if
Dino
you
how to
want
do
a
this.
George T. Stagg
Yeah.
tonight for $45. You
I-
talked about earlier.
Right.
You should open it up and drink it. But what happens is
We're
about 3 days
selling
later,
it again.
3 days later, resell. Now the guy who bought it for $45, he's putting it back up a couple days later for $450. So,
So
there's
it-
bottles
it's-
that have moved
but-
around.
Oh,
Be
there-
realistic about that.
we've got some slut bottles. I was talking about Blom earlier.
Bomb stuff.
Blom, there are some bottles that have changed.
So if you got
hands
a
lot.
birthday bourbon for what's the going rate, Sam? He's way better. Like going rate
At
for
this
birthday
point, like
bourbon.
$600.
Oh, I
So if you got it for $60,
I have an unopened bottle of Old Forester birthday bourbon. I don't know what year it is.
but I mean, so if you got one for $60, that's $40 less than retail, or $50.
I did
less
not
than retail.
pay. I did not. I paid $100.
But what a guy will win that time and like show a picture of it, whip their dick out, and
Yeah.
then 2 days later
Fireball.
they will fireball it for 600 again for 600.
talking about
and
me.
they will
He's
make.
talking about
I'm
you.
not talking about you. You've done it, but dude, like we talked about today.
He said I've done it.
No, it's and
Alright.
listen, but here's what I said earlier, and we were talking is I know you, and I
Well,
know
yeah.
where you come from, and I know that's what you do, and I can accept that. He's a friend of mine. I get it,
And I'd
I
never do
totally
it then
understand
that we talked that we
yeah,
did it.
I get it, but there's people that will. It's the you take a you know I feel like bourbon and that the market that he's talking about, it could be Wagyu beef, it could be a Yeti cup, it could be a smoker, it could be whatever. They don't really value the bourbon the same way
Get a
because
Traeger for $80.
if you got a bottle of George C. Sag for $45
Yeah.
and you didn't open it, I gotta tell you,
You're stupid.
You're a fucking idiot. That's
So
being nice.
so there's two other parts to it, and then I just want to help educate. Well,
Go ahead.
I don't mean to cut them off. I do,
I'm
but there
already
are.
Get in there,
confused.
'cause
I'm-
we
I'm-
gotta-
I'm
we
lost.
gotta-
So when
we
you
gotta
get on this
wrap this
lottery,
up,
there's
but go ahead.
there's four numbers. There's the Fireball, which is the last one, which is the most prominent one, and there's three other numbers that come up. So there's things called multis too that come up, and there's
This
four
is like
bottles.
Dino trying
And
to
they
explain
typically,
Keno
They
to
typically
me.
do them like valuation from highest to lowest. Okay, so you've got a
Right,
$400, $300, $200, $100 bottle, $100 a
That's crazy.
spot. Let's say, okay.
Okay.
And those four numbers hit in a row. People like those because hey, I could win all four, right? And that 8 could hit. It could be 8, 8, 8, 8, 8.
You're a dreamer.
And I'm winning big, right?
Right.
But the only issue that comes with that though is that now what we're seeing, and we talked about how 2019 was the peak of the actual like amount of people or the like
People,
that were
right.
brought to the secondary market. Now we're watching in the past 3 months or so since COVID actually, and I think it's related to sports gambling being shut down because there's no games. I'm
No,
dead
it's
serious.
100%, it's
We're
100% true.
watching bottle values just start going up because there's these things called buybacks now, where instead of taking the bottle,
Right.
you can get
Yeah,
not-
yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
right.
get you can
Instead of so instead of taking the
people
bottle,
will just
I just
hold
give you 90% of what I made,
And I keep the
keep
bottle,
the
and I
bottle, so
put
I
it
get
back up the
2
next
days
day.
later I can do the same
Oh
thing.
my God.
So that
All right.
happens, and then but what happens, and then so people start slowly bumping up, and like let's say that bottle's $450. Well, all of a sudden
What I
I'm
love
like, yeah,
is
I'm gonna
watching
list it
your
at
face over there,
47,
go
right? So all of a sudden that's a $470 bottle. Now the secondary market always follows the gambling values.
Right.
So now all of a sudden that bottle's $470 on the secondary market because people know they can buy it for the lower value on the secondary market and sell it for more there. So what we've watched is we've seen prices increase probably 30 to 40% over the past 4 months, which normally you'd see about a 10% increase over the course of a year. There are obviously ebbs and flows based on releases and when things come
Sure.
out. And that's how the market's always worked. And there are micro markets. Like locally, there are local groups versus national groups. And locally, we tend to like MGP products like Blom here more, and we value
when you
them
say
higher.
locally, you mean
No,
the
there's other
not
group.
that
No,
one.
not
This,
that group,
this
not that
one,
group.
no, this is a discussion and mule group only.
No, it's true.
Don't get
No,
it. Hey,
so-
listen, no, but seriously, no, but
Okay.
but there are different values. So like, I know that if I like go buy a bottle in secondary nationally that where it's lower valued, I can bring it here and sell it for more
All right.
because I
So,
know
Dino, I
those
gotta-
people like it more.
We
Shay
went
has some
dark.
closing
I got
remarks.
one thing to say.
One thing to
It
say,
may,
then
it
we're
may
gonna
be,
wrap
it may,
it up.
it may
We
be a
gotta
couple
wrap it up.
minutes, but I do want to say that you started the conversation with the dark web, the bourbon secondary market. So we have talked tonight, I think, about the bad things about it. So I want to end it for the good things. So,
Okay. Fair enough.
So there are a lot of groups that, like I think I was sharing with some people here, is we're part of a group, and there's many other groups. We're not unique. That these bourbon enthusiasts, bourbon junkies, bourbon crazies, we do a
Bourbon
lot of we do a
traditionalists.
lot of great things. So we raise money.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
I think our group, I don't know the exact number, Sam. I think we're what's the number this
It was
year?
8
Last year.
Just
Last year, I
total
think.
or
Last year.
just
total
for
all
the,
our fundraisers. I think
uh,
probably
$20,000.
more than
Nice.
that.
Just this. Well, I'm just looking at this year
Yeah.
alone.
So
Since the beginning of this year,
So
probably
you
20
have,
grand.
you have a lot of groups that we,
For a guy's
as
house
bad
that
as the
burned
things are, so
down,
like there's the
COVID group.
fundraising part about these guys will take bottles, like he calls himself a bourbon, a Blom slut. Sam's a guy that will take one of those bottles that he loves, that he can make $300 off of, and he puts it up for free,
For charity.
for charity, for people to buy, and people buy slots to it. So that's the number one thing that the bourbon secondary market does really well.
They basically buy
The,
raffle
the
tickets.
second thing
Okay.
about it is, like you said before, is I
But
think
not everybody does that.
not every group does.
No,
so
not
our
every-
group.
it'd be nice if every group did
I'm
that.
not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say no. I don't know because every group is different. There's different. That's the thing. Is like you have identities. As long as you know what your group is about, that's fine. What I'm saying is like in general, the bourbon groups nationally are raising a shit ton of money. I mean, that's a technical term, a shit ton of money.
And
in the
that-
past 2 years, I guarantee you, we have raised close to $40,000 probably. Right.
This is just our
a,
Just
a
your
group of
500
400,
group
less than
alone.
500
So-
guys. So that's one of the things that you talk about. We're bad. We're evil. There's nothing good about it. We're degenerates. we're fucking each other, like, but we take care of people, and
Well,
those
I'm
charities
sluts.
those charities could be what happened with COVID and helping local restaurants. It could be someone that needs help. It could be fires. It could be a lot of things that have happened, but there's a lot of other groups rally to this. So that's the good thing that happens. The second part about it is there is a lot of groups that do foster the partnership and enjoyment of bourbon. There's a lot of groups that do that.
And
there's the groups that the fireball that he talks about. If you're in that group, it's about gambling, and if you don't understand that, you probably shouldn't be in the group.
Right.
But there's other groups that aren't about that. So there's different groups with different identities.
And even in those, it still is about the bourbon at the end of the day for the most part.
So let me ask one last question.
So we are doing great things.
You
like,
are
don't be
doing-
wrong.
you are-
Like,
and
like that's a
noted.
bad thing you come to. Is like
Noted
the charity part
and
of it is like
respected. There, but with the bad, there's always some good mixed in. It's hell.
But the charity part about it, I would tell you, Dino,
The mafia fed people in Italy during in the midst.
But I'm telling
in the midst
you,
of COVID.
Dino,
Hey,
I'm telling you,
that's the right thing to do.
I'm telling you,
They made
Dino,
sure that
and
people
there's some guys that
didn't
we
go hungry.
We're not gonna name any
but they're
names.
still the mafia.
But we're not gonna name any names. At San Jose, I'm talking about. There's some guys. And there's a group in Columbus.
Charity
Charity only that raise a shit ton of money for people that need it.
And
That's great.
And it is unbelievable. And the only reason they raise money is because guys like Sam and I and other people that even more than like we're probably like not even in that group of people that really donate. Guys will throw up unbelievable bottles, 15-year Pappy Van Winkles for nothing to raise money for something.
That's great.
So there's
and sometimes people do give it a bad rap in a sense with the charity side because they're like, well, you've made the money back already anyways because you've sold other bottles to get it back, but it doesn't matter. And I think that's a dumb argument, but
when
I've heard that
bourbon
argument.
benefits, I don't know. I got no problem with
No,
that.
and that's one of the things, honestly, like the one I want to end it on is like, we'll call it out to our friend Jim. I'm number 4 because Sam bumped up to 3 now in the local market. Is we are trying to work, I'm trying to work, honestly, I'll say it, I'm trying to work with Jim to somehow make the bourbon thing and legalize, make charity stuff work and benefit people.
Make it
because
work
you have
better.
guys that are,
There are a lot of
I have bottles that if it's the right charity, let me tell you what, not even the bottle, but he knows for me, and you can vouch for this. I put a lot of fucking energy into helping people that need stuff.
There are a lot of
And that's energy
much
of like
sometimes.
There's a lot.
no, it's true. Being
There's
in
a
my
lot
basement,
of steps to go through.
yeah, being in my basement,
There's a lot of steps to go through. I'd like to see
doing a
those steps
spreadsheet,
shortened.
and yeah, and that's
You're
what
right.
we're doing is because it's like as bad as it is, in some aspects that people do, is we are doing some great things. And the other thing is the greatest thing about the community, really, if you're really into the community, is like what we're doing tonight is these guys off camera. You don't see them; they're trying bourbons they've never tried before.
Right.
That's what most of us love to do: to share what we
Sure.
have, enjoy it, talk about it.
My last question, and we're going to wrap it up. Let Hansberry do some business. You two gentlemen, at the end of the day, with your love or debate over the secondary market, the black market, my question to this is this: do you sleep well at night?
How much of the bet has my wife taken?
Over bourbon or everything
over
else in
bourbon?
general?
Are my dogs
over
jumping
your
in
bourbon
it?
decisions? Do you both sleep
Oh,
well at night?
Absolutely.
You have no
I mean,
you have no problem
It's a quick
with what you
short
do.
is
I don't.
I get messages from people that disagree at times, and there is always conflicting.
Sure.
I think just ideologies on things, but at the end of the day, yeah, I do because I think that it's just where we're at now.
Okay.
So, what did you say to me today? I spend
Chay spends an unhealthy amount of energy on
No,
certain
that's not true.
things.
which is true. And so, do I sleep well at night? Absolutely, because I do love people that hate me, but there's a part of me that I also, and I love that you give me the forum to say this, is I am always trying to help make it better for everyone.
He
And I think Sam
absolutely
did.
is, and
so
I just have to try
I
and
get a
talk
ba-
him down sometimes.
So sometimes I don't sleep well at night because people I don't think get that it's really not about me. I really generally this is the bourbon secondary market for me has become like what I've like what used to be in the military as a family, really, like Sam's family, like those people that are family to me.
Absolutely.
And you like your sister. You may not like your brother as much, but you love them. You know what I mean? As long as you understand where they're coming from. But most of the time I do sleep really well, and I do sleep sometimes really well when I know that people are super hating on me.
It's a sickness.
He gets off on it.
I do.
All right,
I do.
we got to wrap it up. My guests tonight have been Chay Miller and Sam Hilty. The conversation, the secondary market, Black Market Bourbon. Call it what you want.
Bum, bum,
Take what you will from this particular
What's the first
podcast
rule?
and make your own decisions. We're not judging here. We're just discussing, and that's all I wanted to do was have a
Exactly.
discussion about it.
Thanks for having
The
us.
guest bottle tonight has been the bastard child of Matthew McConaughey and Eddie Russell, the LONGBRANCH, which we seem to be enjoying and think that it's a good everyday buy for like $39 a bottle.
Oh, definitely,
39 or 49. I can't remember what I paid for it, but still, it's under 50. And anything that's that drinks, and I gotta admit, I enjoyed it more tonight than I did when I had that first taste this evening. But what I thoroughly have enjoyed is you two guys being open and candid about everything. I appreciate it. I really do. You can follow Chay Miller and Sam Hilty on Instagram for sure. Is there any other sites that you guys want to promote or that you want to get out there?
No.
No, I'm good. I think I think we've touched it.
We might not have a group tomorrow, but it's all right. No.
This won't come out till Tuesday of next week.
So you have time for us
so
to
you
do
got-
some other
so you
stuff.
got-
That's fine.
you
I
got
will say,
time to make
podcast
a
in all
on
decision.
seriousness,
as
if
we
there's
call it.
anybody out there that does have any questions, that's interested or wants to know anything, my Facebook, Sam Hilty. It's a guy with his pretty wife.
His
his
wife is
picture,
way too hot for him.
way
by the
too
way.
hot for me.
Way
Who's the lucky
Reach
guy?
out to me, send me a message. I'm
Especially
on my
after
phone.
the picture I saw, a few months ago.
I'm on my phone way too much. Send me a message. I'll glad to answer any anytime.
Well,
And are you saying that I've moved up to the number 2 hated?
I
as
think
opposed
you
to
have now. I mean, I don't. I'm trying to push
Which,
it off because I am
yeah.
definitely number 2.
You're still number 2.
Yeah, I'm still number 2.
Still number
It's all
2.
right, but
Well,
that's
we'll see after
It's
this.
like
fine. No, but
It's a permanent
and
slot.
Dino, thanks for having us on, and I hope the whole thing was.
No, man. There's
it's
actually
great
there's
stuff to do.
there's
We could talk for another
there's
hour.
probably
or 2
another
hours.
hour, but we gotta
we'll be
we gotta
back
keep it
again.
somewhat tight.
Yeah.
We can come back again. We can revisit.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Follow Whiskey Business on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and if you have any comments or questions, maybe you have some negative, some pros, maybe you have some cons.
Oh, there's gonna be
But,
pros and cons on this one.
But shoot them at us, and maybe we'll do a round number 2 and kind of just maybe do a Q&A type of a thing and let every kind of
Yeah,
people
definitely
throw
shoot them
stuff
to
at
you guys, and like Sam and I
that
spend
could
way
kinda
too
be
much
fun.
time on Facebook. As my wife and kids just told me today, we're happy.
I'll bring you both
questions
back,
over there.
and then we'll throw Canepa in the mix just
There-
for
there
shits
we
and
go.
giggles. Just
but
for
Jim
shits and-
Canepa, I've never heard of this.
Jim
Subscribe
Canepa.
to us
Chay
on
won't
YouTube.
introduce me to him, so
Oh, really? You've never
He's never met him, yeah.
Never met
Oh,
him.
wow. Okay, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Despite
He's a good
people's
guy.
thoughts, I've not met him.
He's a
Dude,
good
he's not
guy.
a good guy.
He's
a
an
great
Italian
guy.
too.
He's a great guy.
No, again, honestly, he's a guy
He's a
who,
good, yeah.
like,
yeah.
like we're ending it. I gotta take my OHLQ. Everyone thinks I'm part of the group. Jim Canepa's doing a great job. He has a great
All
staff.
right, Hansberry, anything else
I've
you
been
want to add before we
I just
close?
want to say that we are doing a social distancing episode
Yeah.
at the pond.
We have been in the pond. It's there was light out when we started. It's dark
It's
now.
a lot cooler now.
and that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at. Is it's a cool watch. So you can subscribe to Whiskey Business on YouTube. John Whitney does a great job editing these videos.
see what these fuckers look like.
If you want to see, what these fuckers look like, if you want to pick it outside their house,
I was
going to
say that this podcast does not exist without the considerable talents of audio producer Greg Hansberry
Cheers.
and John Whitney, who's got
Good job, John. Get in here, John.
who's got a 2-camera shoot going on here right now, so you guys can look as lovely as you do, and whatever the hell this is on this side of it.
It's like Charlie Sheen. It's a good Charlie Sheen.
Dude,
2.5 Men look.
I'm so hot and tired. My hair is I still got COVID hair. I haven't cut it yet. From you mentioned it earlier when we came in. It's the longest you've ever seen.
Yeah,
I don't think I've
definitely.
had hair this long since I was in my 30s.
You
Just
guys were
rub it
lucky
in.
I still have eyebrows. I actually
Yeah,
shaved them. I actually shaved them off about
He
a month
actually
ago.
did.
So
They got bushy.
yeah, well, they were gone for a little bit.
I don't think he knew what he was doing with the Clippers, actually. Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you for having us. I
And,
really
Sam,
appreciate
great
it.
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well, Dino.
And if you watch the Instagram video that we did earlier in the week when we got
couldn't remember
when
your
we
name.
canceled, I couldn't remember your last name, but now it's ingrained in my brain. Hilty, coctologist.
Blom slut.
Blob slut. All right.
Did you write those down?
My name is Dino Tripodis. This is Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. And we actually didn't even get to these little things. We're going to do this off podcast. We're going to try some of this stuff before it's all said and done. Many thanks again to Greg Hansberry, John Whitney, my guests, Chay Miller, Sam Hilty. And until the next bottle, see ya.